next film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe is Avengers 2.5. It's Iron Man 4. It's Captain America 3. It's all rolled into one. It's Captain America Civil War. And Barry's back to talk about it. Barry?
I am indeed. Too many numbers to keep track of.
Because, yeah, this film is basically a sequel. We've talked about this, but it literally combines, like, the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe into a single film.
And to a level you would hope Infinity War does. It hat tips and acknowledges all the other ones in a way that kind of makes you think, oh, yeah, the universe concept works.
Yeah, like plot threads from Iron Man 3 stuff, you know, the shaky relationship with Pepper Potts, actually explain what's happening. Because that confused me a lot in what's the Age of Ultron, where he's just Iron Man again, because the big like dramatic end to Iron Man 3 is him exploding his suits, and then he's just Iron Man again in the next film, and they finally like explain that here.
Yeah.
And then like it obviously it's a direct sequel to Cap 2, and then it plays off of Age of Ultron. So yeah, it's juggling, it's wearing a lot of hats, it's doing a lot of juggling.
Yeah, and I think that's a positive and a negative because, as we said, it kind of proves the worth of the concept of a cinematic universe, but also I think it kind of, upon rewatching it, I mean, I really loved this film when I saw it in the theater. Watching it back yesterday, it kind of bears the crosses of some of the earlier films. Some of the problems we had talked about Age of Ultron and stuff, they're like trying to remedy or kind of make them matter in this film, and with some success and some clunkiness. But it's certainly an ambitious film given the amount of threads from previous films that it takes on, and also introducing two new pretty significant characters.
Yeah, because this has more Avengers than the last Avengers film did.
Absolutely, yeah.
Well, actually, I suppose they gain Black Panther and Spider-Man and lose Thor and Hulk, so it might even out, but it's close enough.
Yeah, but those two are gone, but at the same time, those are like established characters, and they've got like two new names in the form of Black Panther and Spider-Man. So they're kind of building them up from scratch. Although, I mean, are you ever really building Spider-Man up from scratch? I mean, I guess in the cultural consciousness, you're not really doing that.
No, just don't need to see Uncle Ben die again.
No, absolutely.
Poor Martin Sheen can't handle another death.
No.
Who played the original Uncle Ben?
I don't know the actor's name, and I did know it.
I can picture his face, yeah, but I don't know his name.
Yeah, he's a good actor. It was good, that he was great in that role. Martin Sheen didn't do much for me in that reboot.
In fairness, he didn't really do much in that film in general.
He didn't do much in it, right? I mean, much like that whole franchise, it just felt like a really haphazard, half-hearted reimagining. But that 2002 film, that early sequence of Uncle Ben, that's all good stuff. But God, never to be spoken of until at least one more regeneration of the character.
Yeah, like the next time around, they'll just bring back Tobey Maguire, do like adult Spider-Man, like the Logan equivalent of Spider-Man.
Well, there you go. Now you're talking. But I don't know. I feel like if, and realistically, when is probably the appropriate term to use, when they reboot Spider-Man yet again, when his, whatever deal expires that means he's no longer part of the MCU and Sony go back at it. Yeah, I would almost imagine that they've exhausted it so thoroughly that they would have to go with a different non-Peter Parker Spider-Man. I mean, dive into any one of the million universes you got, or go with Miles Morales or something, because there's only so many times you can revisit it. But I tell you though, on the subject of Spider-Man, I mean, I think as introductions go and as gestures from Marvel go to show, hey everyone, we're gonna have fun with this, and this is gonna be a good iteration of this character. This is a pretty damn good offering, I thought.
Because that was the big thing coming out of this film. It's like, hey, Spider-Man's pretty good again.
Yeah, he's pretty good, and going into it because they acknowledged he was going to be in it in the trailers. I feel like that was one of the main talking points. People were excited to see Spider-Man, and when they came out of it, yeah, they were like, all right, Spider-Man's cool, that's great. And everyone was very excited at the prospect of a standalone film.
Because this film it's kind of very heavy, it's dramatic, there's the usual quips in there, but it's serious, it's about like war and responsibility and all fun stuff like that. And then there's just a half-hour period in the middle of the film where Spider-Man shows up, and it's just a bunch of quips, one-liners, and action scenes, and it's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely, and he is something of a breather. because like it's a film that like early on, like the first half of the film, it's all like quasi-realistic depictions of terrorism, like, you know, still within the realm of a superhero film, but it's a guy blowing himself up in a public space, an explosion at the UN that does not result in a crazy fight or chase sequence. It's just an explosion at the UN where people die, and you know, lots of stuff like that. And then the tail end of the film with specifically the big fight scene at the end and the revelation of Winter Soldier killing the Starks. That's all grim. That's all like the grimmest stuff that the MCU has done, I think, in terms of tone and level of violence. I mean, so, you know, it's still a solid 12. I don't even think it was really. I don't even really think it was close to a 15 rating, but it was, you know, as these films go, it is pretty grim. And yeah, Spider-Man's a good comic relief in there, and he's part of some of those fun scenes in the whole thing. So that was good, which is obviously an integral part of what Spider-Man is.
And Ant-Man shows up at the same time, so it's just like the two most like comedic leaning characters in the MCU are just dropped in for half an hour to crack jokes, basically.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which this film probably did need. As you were saying, it's dark. It's like, you know, it's like the director's acknowledging. It's like, we know that this film is relatively heavy for a superhero film, so we're just going to make it super fun for a half hour. And that kind of evens it out.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, I mean, and that's also, I mean, that's the, it's kind of like the Marvel template. It's like what you've built these films up as. Probably something very difficult that directors have to grapple with is, I have all these ideas and I want to go in this direction. You know, it's not like a Tim Burton could come along and say, all right, let's do this with Captain America. It's like, whoa, buddy, you are making one film in a 21 film universe. So you know, the Russo brothers here are setting about to make this dramatic, gritty thing with this terrorism and these dudes violently beating each other and revenge and anger and all this other stuff. It's like, well, we still have plans for what we want the overall tone of this to be. And these are, even though it pushes the brink a little bit, these are still movies that we want kids to go and see in droves. So yeah, no doubt. I mean, that's Disney in general. I mean, it's very talented people, but they're trying to make their art work in the corporate, you know, environment.
So this film is hung on like the framing of device of kind of adding levity to the events of Age of Ultron.
Yeah.
Which kind of works and it doesn't, because a big problem we both had with Age of Ultron was like Iron Man creates Ultron and then he just goes and tries to do it again.
Yeah.
So we've learned in that film that he has not learned from his mistakes. So the big like dramatic crux of this is that he suddenly feels the burden of responsibility because some woman walked up to him and was like, "You killed my son," and all of a sudden it comes home that, oh, I've done horrible things. I need checks on my power. That felt kind of ham-fisted to me.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was one of those things that I came out of the film the first time I saw it, and I was like, oh, wow, they added all this gravitas to it, and it was really well done, and they added some layers that weren't previously there. And that's still true. I don't think that illusion was completely shattered, but watching all these movies in quick succession for this show, and then in particular watching this one yesterday, I was just like, yeah, you know, the cracks are kind of there. They're playing this footage of like the New York incident and trying to play it off as, look at how dangerous the Avengers are. I was like, there's aliens invading. Like, yeah. I don't, like, you're trying to get me to feel bad for them for being reckless. And yeah, you've got Hulk there jumping through buildings, but it's like, aliens invaded? Like, what were we supposed to do? Likewise, they've got the end of like Winter Soldier in there where the SHIELD ship crashes, and like, it's again, we were taking down these preposterously evil people trying to destroy the world. And then, you know, Age of Ultron, at least Age of Ultron, like you said, like Ultron was Tony Stark's creation. So as annoying as we both found the conclusion of that film to be, at least in this one, when they're playing that footage, like, here, look, this thing you made was a gigantic disaster. So yeah, watching it this second time, I was kind of half and half. I was like, I still appreciated the effort, but I saw through it a little bit. And also the, in particular, they just had to mention the kid that died, that made Stark feel bad. He died at the end of Age of Ultron, which I do kind of resent that movie being so mindless and so consequence-free in and of itself. But then after the fact of this movie, they're like, oh no, bad things happened. Look, we're going to retroactively add a casualty for you to feel bad about. like I said, they're paying for the sins of the father a little bit in this film, but I do think the effort is really commendable for what they're trying to do, and I think the Robert Downey Jr.'s performance is pretty good, and despite the flaws, I think in general it's a net positive what they're going for.
Yeah, even at the start of this film, they're thwarting like criminals trying to steal chemical weapons. It's like some people died, but would you have rather have had them steal the chemical weapons?
Yeah, and he's like, I have to be held accountable if I lose 2 10-ton missiles, referring to Hornbook being missing. It's like, yeah, well, if you're going to use a military analogy, it's like, look, people die in the process of war and operations like this. It's just, I guess they didn't really hammer home that the Avengers were these out of control people. They never, and for all the talk, they never really got into body count with regards to like New York, with regards to Avengers 1. Like, they didn't really specify what went wrong, how many people died. They just alluded to it, which was maybe something they could have done to hammer it home a bit. But it's difficult. It is difficult when you're making these films that are summer blockbusters, and then 12 films deep, you decide you want to start adding a bit of levity.
Yeah, and especially when it's like different people have made all of these films, so it's not one like through line. It's not like, and the Russo brothers were, we're going to bring this Avengers thing back around in a few films' time. So when they tried to do it, when they tried to like retcon some level of like consequence, it's going to feel just a tad shaky. So this film, like, I will give infinite credit to the Russos, though. They damn well know how to shoot action.
Yeah, I mean, this was another really, really great action film. I have such an admiration for the way they put their action scenes together. One thing I really appreciated in this film in particular is this kind of sound design. The punching, the scraping, the falling, the explosions, the gun sound effects, everything just sounds really cool. Everything moves really fast. It's just, they made a film with a bit of levity, but they still had their trademark, just awesome action.
And it's like my least favorite thing. It's the thing about the DC universe as well, but most like modern action films is it's so jumpy. And like you can never make out what's happening, and like I understand that's because that makes action easier to shoot, and this film does have some of that to an extent because I think it's necessary. But you can always make out what's happening. In these action scenes, they're so wonderfully shot that you can the sequences flow from one from the next, and you can actually see what's happening. It's wonderful, and there's 3 like brilliant action set pieces in this film. There's the one at the start when they're thwarting the terrorists. There's that big chase through Berlin, and then there's the airport fight. And all 3 of those action scenes are just fantastic.
Yeah, and they have a lot of kind of sight gags, not really gags, but you know what I mean, that really hinge on you being able to see what's happening to work, like, with things with the drone, and you've got Spider-Man going in all these different directions. And I mean, that's the thing as well in the airport fight, is you've all these different variables, you've all these different characters who do these different things and fight in these different ways, and they're mixing it up, and it's it would have been very easy for that to get mucky and hard to follow, but they kept a lid on it, and it really was impressive.
Yeah, I was thinking about watching that. It's like, how do we even script that? It's like, and now Spider-Man comes flying in with his webs to catch the shield, and then someone else does this thing, and to have that kind of intricate choreography laid out in a way that kind of makes sense. You have to have like a very clear vision of what you're actually shooting.
Yeah, during the scripting process, I imagine there's a lot of parentheses with "they fight" in them, and then that's figured out sort of closer to the filming process with the choreographers. That's my guess, but yeah, it's really it is really, really impressive. Lots of great action.
There is one Hurricane Rana and one failed Hurricane Rana, by the way.
Yes, yeah. Winter Soldier counters one at one point.
Power bombs them onto a table instead.
Yeah. So they're learning. They're playing off the previously established moments, which is very impressive.
And we talk about callbacks to old MCU films. We have a deep cut as General Ross is brought back from Hulk.
Yes, yeah, which was again, Hulk kind of the black sheep of these early films in terms of different actor, not really tied into the rest of them at all. throwing a little bone here. It's important to remember it. Like, you could almost forget that is an MCU film in some ways. I mean,
it's the one that kind of exists least within continuity.
Absolutely, yeah.
And yeah, they were throwing a bone here. Betty's still nowhere to be seen. Betty's just gone.
I don't think we're getting Betty back ever.
I hope she just shows up in that Thor film. She's just somewhere in space. It's like,
yeah, they have their big fight as they always do, and then as Thor is about to finish Hulk, she comes down a little spaceship. She's like, no.
Did you spot the Arrested Development reference in this film, by the way?
No.
The the stair car from Arrested Development?
Yes.
The design of the plane stair cars in the airport scene is the exact same as the Arrested Development one.
Oh, wow. And I would never have caught that. But that's an interesting pull.
That is, because obviously like the Russos directed a bunch of Arrested Development, so like that is like a deep cut Arrested Development reference.
Yeah. That's pretty good. Thought you were going to say at some point during like the big car chase that they run over a banana stand.
There's money in the banana stand, Michael.
Yeah.
Jim Rash is in this too. So Danny Pudi was in Winter Soldier. Jim Rash is in this to confirm that Community is within the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yeah, that's we've confirmed that. It's one of the great scoops we've had in this series.
Yes, and we have our young CGI. No.
Yeah, I saw that new Pirates movie, by the way. It's in that as well.
It's in every Disney film now. Like, literally every single one of them.
I forgot how much I disliked it in this one in particular. It's because his voice isn't different. That doesn't help as well.
But
yeah,
do you not think he's talking a little more earnestly? Like, it's just a little higher and a little more enthusiastic because he's young now.
Yeah. I mean, I think he did act like a young person. That's fair enough. But he was still, oh, man. Enough of this. And it's like, I refuse to believe that it's just a coincidence that all these recent Disney films have had flashbacks that required it. It's like, no, they are definitely like deliberately doing this. There's definitely an initiative to do it. Like Rogue One, like you excuse it, it is a prequel. It does tie directly into the beginning of the next film, so you can justify that. But like. The young Tony Stark it's such a contrived scene anyway. like he explains, I've got this new tech that's like I can relive scenarios as I wish they went. It's like, what is this? What is this scene? This is the most. And then he's like, and it turns out he's given a speech at a university about like a bursary and stuff like that. It's like this couldn't have less to do with your parents and young you. That was another thing I had forgotten from first seeing. Is like, this has nothing to do. They so shamelessly shoehorned it in, and I actually can't remember. Oh wait, no, I guess it's kind of important in Pirates, but they could have foregone. They could have just stuck a bit of makeup on Johnny Depp. It's not like they had to do it. So yeah, I am certain that it is like a mandate that they want to show it off whenever they can. You know what it might be? Maybe they are trying to get these films some Oscars for like they want to be pushing the envelope for CGI, and maybe they think this will score them some second tier Oscars, maybe
some technical achievements, or it's just like someone in Disney's just like, we paid for this, we're bloody well going to start using it,
or that, yeah. Like, even though I'm not a fan of it, I am sure it's expensive, and they're like, okay, well, this has to be used always now because you spent ludicrous amounts of money on it, so maybe that's it, return on investment, but. Yeah, so that was a joy.
I'm fairly sure they insisted Pixar use it in Finding Dory as well. That's how you got young Dory in that film.
Yeah, that one was seamless.
The other big character that showed up in this film is Black Panther. What did you think of Black Panther?
Liked him a lot. Yeah, I like him as kind of little bit of an edge to him, a little bit roguish. Like he talks about when his dad dies, he has that scene with Romanov about how my father non-violent, but that's not me, and he
will hunt
pretty
you
much
across the world.
Yeah, and it's like literally, in fact, yeah, because he follows them all the way up to that final scene, and it's pretty much until he sees the revelation of the master plan that he is trying to cut Bucky's throat, basically, explicitly. In fact, in the airport fight, tries to rip his throat out.
Yeah.
So he's a little bit like Punisher-y in the sense that he's not really a hero. He's a guy with special abilities who's out for his revenge and not a whole lot else. So yeah, that's a nice mix-up in amidst all this other stuff where it's Captain America and Iron Man debating what's right and wrong and how do we do this, and he's just in it for himself, which I appreciated.
I did like when he shows up to fight Winter Soldier at first on that rooftop. It's like he just jumps in front of Winter Soldier, and Winter Soldier, seeing a man in a large black cat suit, is just like, okay, I guess we're going to fight now.
Yeah, this is the world I live in, so
this is life.
He gets it.
The villain is, well, you see, you could give out the villain in this film, but I think the villain is literally just a plot device here.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, he's a bit samey, but at the same time, yeah, he was a device to get the plot moving, and I thought his closing, speech was good, and he wasn't, there was at least decent writing associated with it, so it didn't bother me too much,
Yeah, like if the big climax was like, I thought it was a good swerve as well. That swerved me at first, when I first saw this film, when they go to the Russian base and it turns out he's just killed all of the other Winter Soldiers, because of course he wouldn't want all of those roaming the Earth. That makes perfect sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was a good swerve. And then it just turns out our final act is Iron Man and Captain America punching each other for a while.
We've talked quite a bit about death and stuff in these movies. I think we've already several times before we got to this movie, we talked about the whole War Machine thing. Yeah, so first of all, rewatching that scene, I was like, oh man, even the shot where he crashes to the ground, it's so ominous. It's almost. I'm almost curious to see if that idea was toyed with, the idea that they were going to kill him off, because it seems like the groundwork was there.
He is also a pretty disposable character as well.
He is a disposable character, and I was annoyed that the ending of the film is pretty damn heavy, but like not only do they not kill him, but they even have the guy walking around by the end of the movie.
Yeah.
So even his paralysis that they said he might have is basically hand waved. I mean, that was super frustrating. But also the closing fight scene with Captain America and Iron Man. I mean, it is really fantastic. And when our big bad is giving his speech about his plan, and it's just like Captain slow motion wailing on Iron Man. It's like, they certainly got the heavy tone down, and they certainly nailed the feeling that this was the darkest hour, even though they did not kill anyone. Certainly gave me. I remember in the theater, I thought Captain America was going to kill Iron Man right then and there with the shield.
Yeah, and what I liked about that, the airport scene is played for spectacle.
Yeah.
Whereas that final scene it's gritty, it's raw, it's just two of them. There's not much superpowers in there. It's just two of them punching each other. It's like it's grounded. It's played for that kind of serious tone. It's played for that. It's that moment of everything has come to this. Yeah,
and it's like, even though no one died, I like that the film does end on that darker note of they're not on the same page. They are divided, and this film does feel like it has consequences because they end with everyone on separate pages, which was good. And I was kind of disappointed that they showed Captain America freeing the prisoners, because I like that the ending of the film is everyone's divided, everything's gone to hell. Like, where do we go from here? I think it would have just had a little bit more of a sting in the tail if that closing montage of them in their cells had not ended with him, coming to break them out.
I guess we have an Ant-Man and the Wasp film to show before the next Avengers. So.
Oh yeah, I guess that's right. True, and yeah, so that makes sense. So I guess they had to do that again. You got your obligations to the universe. But yeah, I mean, it was certainly very impactful, and if you're going to make a Civil War movie where no one died. I think they still managed to achieve a great level of drama and a level of consequence to it that felt like there's going to be ramifications in the next few films.
Yeah, because when I came into this film, I expected the whole film to be, they have a problem, they fight for a while, bigger threat shows up, they're friends again by the end. Which is like, that was the formula of Batman vs Superman, where they do the big Martha scene and suddenly Doomsday shows up and they have to be pals. Whereas at the end of this, they're fractured, They're mad at each other. They're still willing to support each other for the better of the world and all that fun stuff. But yeah, there's ramifications of their dispute. They're not on the same page.
Yeah, absolutely.
We had our Stan Lee cameo, Tony Stank.
Yeah, God, I didn't mind it, but I thought it was a bit late in the film for that level of a joke.
I actually forgot him. I was actually thinking toward the end of the film, I was like, did I miss the Stan Lee cameo? It's like, oh nope, there he is.
Yeah, I also completely forgot what it was. I actually thought I had missed it. Yeah, so Yeah, not a bad cameo, but I wouldn't have put it at the very end of the film.
No. And our post-credit scenes set up Black Panther and Spider-Man,
Yeah, yeah,
which were pretty standard. There's more films coming. Go watch them.
yeah, and we are almost exactly a month out from Spider-Man. So.
Indeed. So on the whole, I would say I do have more problems with this than when I saw it the first time I saw it.
Same, yeah.
Because I saw this was the first film I've ever went to at a midnight screening, which is like the hardest of the hardcore, so you're going to get people that love the film just there with you, which I think does enhance the experience a little and makes you kind of gloss over some of the little shakiness of the plotting. But it is among the better of the MCU films by far.
My first midnight screening was for Suicide Squad.
Oh god, that must have been crushingly disappointing.
Yeah, actually, like coming out of it, it was not that bad because people had geared me up to think it was one of the worst films ever, and I didn't think it was. I thought it was like all right, and then on a subsequent viewing, I ended up really not liking it. But at the time, I didn't hate it just because I think the hyperbole had prepared me for the worst. But yeah, I'm pretty much with you. I think I loved this when I saw it in the cinema. Watching it back, I still think it's a really cool film. I still really like it. But the holes are there, and they are largely due to the restrictions of the universe and the mistakes that were made in previous films. But so it is not perfect, but certainly a top-notch superhero film, and still in the upper tier of all these films.
And up next is the official Iron Man reboot, Doctor Strange.
Yeah. That's another one that I've only seen once, so I'll be interested to and thoroughly enjoyed. So I'll be interested to look back on it.
I may have played my hand by already referring to it as an Iron Man reboot.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a fair comparison. I think if I recall, I think that film did enough interesting kind of things that I'm sure it'll stand up on a rewatch.
And we'll get into that next time. Before we go, Barry, plugs.
Plugs! You can go to thebarrylad.com for reviews of whatever I'm watching or playing at any given time. Got a Horizon review up at the moment.
Which I just started playing yesterday, by the way.
Very good, yeah. I'm glad you finally got around to it. Just as you get into that, I'm a few weeks away from starting Zelda, so my Switch is fast approaching. So yeah, playing what am I playing at the moment? Night at the Woods at the moment, so I'm hoping to do a review of that when I'm done. Twitter.com/thebarrylad for updates on that blog and YouTube stuff whenever I'm streaming, and just various other bits and pieces, so you can go follow me there and keep up to date with whatever's going on.